Recording live from the Lucky Number 7 Lounge in the basement of Dine Drink Travel World Headquarters in the barren wastelands of far west Texas. This is Dine Drink Vegas, the podcast by and for everybody stuck at home and wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. I'm your host, John, also known as the Baller on a Budget, and in this episode, we're going to see what went down in Nachogate. We're going to talk about the giant poop emoji on the middle of the Vegas Strip and how Caesars is maybe pooping things up for Super Bowl party goers. And of course, we're going to tell you about our drink of the day. But before we can do any of that, we have to introduce the founder of Dine Drink Travel, the high roller of the high plains, the leader in the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the man who is always waiting for the limo to take him away to that resort. It's Bill. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, John. How are you?
I am doing excellent.
Cool. So tell me a little bit more about what we're drinking, because I've tasted it. It tastes pretty good, but it's this weird angry color.
So this drink is a derivative of the Angostura based Trinidad sour, which we've taken a run at before, and we didn't get it quite right, but the Angostura is very intense. You basically have 2 ounces of Angostura as the base spirit in a cocktail. So the origin of this drink actually comes from YouTube. There's a YouTube channel called How to Drink. The host name is Greg, and he made a video, I want to say a year or two now, about bar tools that he likes. And I had seen the video when it first came out. Well, I took a Saturday afternoon nap, and when I woke up, I fell asleep with YouTube rolling, and it just went back through my history. And he was doing that episode. And in the beginning of the episode, he literally walks on to set and says, before I do this, I need a drink. And he invents this drink on the fly, and it's somewhere between the Trinidad Sour and another drink called The Last Word, which also features a heavy pour of Angostura. This one is called the Bourbonista, and as far as I know, the only place you can find this drink is on the How to Drink YouTube channel from Greg. There's a subreddit
in this podcast.
Yeah, there's a subreddit where this thing lives, and now Dine Drink Vegas, and Greg doesn't know we exist. So if any of our 5 fans happen to have a line into How to Drink, to help us give them a shout out. But here's how this drink works. So in your cocktail shaker, per drink, you're going to go with 1 ounce more or less of lime juice. You do need to reserve a lime wheel out of your lime to do this. 1.5 ounces of bourbon. In the video, he uses David McKenna. He said this is not something you would want to use a high-end bourbon for because Angostura is such a strong flavor, and I think he's right. This is a job for sub $25 bottles. As it happens, you happen to have what on hand?
So we used Old Grandad Bonded today, and the liquor prices here in our little town are obscenely high, but even here, this costs $22, and it's a phenomenal deal. It's not that it's the best whiskey in the world, but it's my standard mixing whiskey now.
Yeah, Old Grandad is the king of the bottom shelf, whether you go with the regular 80 proof, the bonded, which we're doing today, which is 100 proof, which is stronger than what he used in the video, because he used Henry McKenna, which is 80 proof. And then they also have Old Grandad 114, which is intense, and also would have been good in this, come to think of it.
And I am glad we used something a little bit higher proof in this, because I don't like the Angostura bitters as much as you do, and I think using something a little bit higher proof you can still taste the Angostura, but it helped tame that out.
Yeah.
Similarly, I'm usually a wheated bourbon kind of guy, but I like a little bit of a higher rye bourbon like this, again, to kind of do some combat with those bitters.
Yeah, so let's go back through the ingredient list and get through there. So we've got 1 ounce of lime juice, 1.5 ounces of bourbon, 1/2 ounce of Angostura bitters, and I guess you could do it with some other bitters, but I like Angostura. 1/2 ounce of Maraschino Liqueur, which is part of your sweetener for this, and 1/2 ounce of simple syrup. And then you're going to shake that like it owes you money. But before you put it into your coupe glass or your martini glass, you probably want a nice stemmed cocktail glass for this. You're going to rinse that glass with absinthe, which you had your first experience with absinthe. My first in a while. And you don't detect much of it in this drink at all because it's just a rinse through the glass. But we took a little sip. What'd you think?
I think I'm glad that we only rinsed it. That is the first and last time I will ever actually sip absinthe. It tastes like licorice, right? It reminded me of the summer of 1996 when I was in Germany and there was a Greek bartender who forced me to drink a lot of ouzo, and it wasn't good, and whatever. No, thank you.
Yeah, and I like black liquor, so not surprisingly, I enjoy absinthe, and I think I could sip that on the rocks.
Bless your heart, you go for it.
But yeah, now we made a drink a few episodes ago similar to this where we used apple brandy, and we did not have maraschino liqueur on that. I do wonder if we went back and we just did this recipe with the Laird's apple brandy or Applejack again. And then I also wonder as we sip it how this would be with a nice aged rum, because after all, Angostura is a Caribbean product. And we've got lime juice in here. Am I crazy for thinking that this would be maybe instead of a Bourbonista, which I think is a great name, that maybe we need the Rumista? What do you think?
So I think the Rumista would be good, but I can't help but think about the fact it is January the 27th right now. We're in what amounts to winter right here. And to me, the Laird's Applejack seems like the better mixer for the time of year we're in. It feels more like summer to me if you were to make it with rum. Now, what kind of rum would you use? Are you using an aged rum? Or are you using a clear rum? What are you doing?
Oh, I think definitely aged, because I mean with the bourbon and the brandy versions of this, I like that aged character. I think an aged spirit would be on order. Maybe a Florida, not the 18-year-old, but maybe like Florida Cognac 12 wouldn't be out of line for this.
No, I think, and that's just a lovely rum anyway. So no, I would absolutely give that a shot. And I'm guessing on a future episode we wind up doing that.
Oh, yeah. We definitely will.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, well, let's start jumping into news. And this episode is mostly news driven because it's been a very newsy week in Vegas. If you are on Twitter or X or whatever Elon is calling his latest tax write-off this year, you have seen this story. So there's a Twitter using MU Tiger Mike, I assume that has to do with the Missouri Tigers, complained on social media about Fontainebleau's Sports Tavern taking an entire hour to get his $24 plate of nachos out. And Bill, how would you describe the picture of the nachos Fontainebleau was rolling out?
I would describe it as what I ordered at a fast food Mexican place behind the pine tree curtain of deep East Texas in 1979 when I ordered off the kids' menu.
Yeah, it was, I think, 6 little hunks of tostada with a few things daintily atop them.
Like, even at Vegas prices, that was obscene because their food costs there had to have been 50 cents, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that was absolutely nuts, and it was a failure all around, both for the price and for the time. Like, how long does it take to put beans and cheese on 6 tortilla chips?
Well, and not only that, I mean, the social media storm that followed, and Fontainebleau's communications staff put together a pretty clumsy apology tweet in the short run. Every other restaurant in town immediately posted pictures and prices of their nachos to prove that you can get better nachos pretty much anywhere else. And all of this culminated with Fontainebleau introducing a revised version of their nacho dish, which still looks a little small for $24, but is at least in the realm of, I
you
get
can
that.
argue it's really
so, okay.
I'm not going to lie. This seems like a dumb enough move to me that I'm almost starting to rethink my plans for it. And we'll talk about our upcoming trips later on, but I've got a trip planned to the Fontainebleau in March. And it was going to be one of those things where I stayed on the property for 24 hours. But if that's the sort of thing they serve, I'm still going to go. But man, I just became a lot less interested. Right? Like it's not a good deal. And
you paused for a comment while I was sipping. Sorry.
I know, it's all good, right? That's not a good deal. And that combined with it, they're now up to 4 different senior executives who've been fired. Man, it doesn't feel to me like a group that's got their business together yet.
I feel like the thing that Fontainebleau has done best since their opening is to give social media people an endless amount of potential content. And for that, we thank you. But yeah, this is a place I have wanted to visit since I saw it as a windowless shell on the north end of the Strip back when they still were pretending it was going to open as the Drew. And I think I still want to stay there at some point. Like when I can work it out, I'm not doing that on my March trip just because with the guys I'm going to be traveling with. And, I just don't think that's the trip for that. I still want to spend a night in that property, but I got to say, I'm not as excited as I was a year ago.
No, well, and particularly not when there are other attractive options up on the North Strip. Like, I love Resorts World. It's great. So I'm still going to go to the Fontainebleau. Maybe they've gotten over some of their hiccups from getting started up.
Yeah, and I don't know it. Once you break your culture that bad, because I think with this many senior executives leaving and things like that, and once you mess your culture up that bad, it's going to take a while to fix. So I'm rooting for them. Hang in there, Blue. But yeah, I have reservations, and that's why I don't have reservations.
Well, John, what else is going on in Vegas? What has been happening with the theoretical move that the Oakland A's are making to town?
So fieldofschemes.com, which is a website I didn't even know about until Vital Vegas mentioned them in a tweet. And they have a lot of content, not just about this debacle for the A's, but bad stadium deals in multiple sports. So it's now one of my favorite blogs. The A's site will not hold the originally planned retractable roof. And that means if they want a retractable roof, they can't build a Tropicana. And if they build a Tropicana, they're going to have to go for a different stadium design. And that raises a bunch of questions.
So
and I can see you have a few.
Yeah, let's back up. So here's what I understand it to be. They could build the retractable roof. They just can't do that and rebuild the Tropicana, right? Like it's one or the other on those 9 acres, right?
But the arrangement they had was that there would be a casino resort with the stadium on site. So something's got to give.
Something does have to give. Well, and the problem is that they've got several other problems with this construction and just like getting the moves done. For one thing, the several $100 million that the Nevada legislature voted for this is specifically tied to that location.
Yeah, almost $500 million. It was a big chunk of change.
Yeah, so they either have to figure out a way to make that site work, or alternatively, they have to go somewhere else and then give up the money from the legislature and hope they can convince the legislature to vote for it a second time, which can be really, really hard given the opposition of the teachers' unions and other groups. So that's going to be rough. One of the things which is making it harder is, like in theory, you could make the Tropicana's hotel footprint smaller and just build up, but you can't do that at that location because it's right there by the airport and they're height restricted, right? So they can't do that. You've also got the problem of John Fisher and the A's have to have $1 billion in their own financing. They still haven't explained where that money is yet. And they've got a couple other problems, right? Like there was a luncheon at the Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce this weekend, and normally on Wednesday, normally these would be the guys who are super sports boosters. They would be normally the ones who are buying your season ticket packages and all that sort of stuff. And it was essentially a pep rally for the A's. Everybody's like, yeah, fine, right, whatever. Like there wasn't really any sense of enthusiasm in the room. But before you get to that, because even in the best case scenario, this new stadium is not going to be ready until 2028. 2024, as we've talked about several times before on this podcast, is the last year that the A's can play in Oakland before their lease expires. The mayor of Oakland held a press conference this week, which essentially wished them good riddance, right? So like that bridge is thoroughly burned. We still don't know where they're playing in 2025. For a long time, the assumption had been that they were going to share space with the Las Vegas Aviators. They're a AAA team, but we read reports about them, touring minor league stadiums in the San Francisco Bay. There's one report of them touring a minor league stadium in Salt Lake City. So it's, man, the A's on public appearance seem somehow to be running their business even worse than the Fontainebleau is running theirs.
Yeah, and that's pretty remarkable. But then the other party that we haven't focused on, because the A's bad management, they do suck up all the oxygen in the room because they suck. But Bally's Incorporated. So remember that Bally's, which is now the Horseshoe, was not owned by Bally's, the company. It was owned by Caesars. The actual Bally's Gambling Corporation owned and operated the Tropicana. They have already announced the closure of the Trop. Their staff have already started looking for other jobs. That's going to be a bell that's very hard to unring. They've also not been really maintaining a property that was already in need of some serious overhaul and maintenance before all this happened.
Yeah, it needed overhaul 10 years ago.
Yeah, and their company is sort of on life support. So if this deal falls through, And let's say the A's don't build on that site. And we'll talk about where else they might build in a second. So hold that. If you're Bally's, what in the world are you going to do with the Trop? Because, with Casino Royale and the Best Western slated to close, you do not want to get and the Travel Lodge already bulldozed. You don't want to be the dumpiest property on the Strip. And I don't see how they avoid that fate, because I don't think they have the cash to remodel.
So at some point, and I don't think we're there yet, but there's going to come a point where the thing which is in Bally's best financial interest is to simply sell the dirt underneath it, because somebody can use those 9 acres. And to be clear, what I'm about to say, I am totally hypothesizing, right? I have zero source and information or anything like that. But I could imagine a world where, let's say, MGM buys that from them, uses the whole 9 acres to build the stadium, and just has their fans walk across the street or something like that. Or Tillman Fertitta makes that his home on the Strip or whatever.
Well, except Tillman's already broken ground just a couple blocks up.
Sure. But whatever. So he builds a second spot, whatever, right? Like that, I guess the fundamental point is that land can be used for something. And if Bally's doesn't have the cash to renovate their hotel, and if this deal isn't going to work, then at some point you just sell the dirt.
So I got to say, and I don't think this is likely at all, but I kind of love to play pretend. Given that MGM still owns the perfectly good brand name of the Mirage, and given that they already own the other 3 corners, it might be nice to see a new casino with the name Mirage on it, and maybe a modernized volcano out in front. But we don't have any sources on that. That's just me playing pretend. And speaking of speculation, I want to move on to our next story. And I had this further down the run sheet, and I just moved it during this conversation. One of the potential locations that people are bringing back up, and again, it's purely speculation, is that lot that is owned by Rio, between Rio and Caesars. And if you think about putting a baseball stadium there, and Caesars is absolutely going to want a skywalk to that stadium. But if you have a skywalk from Caesars to that stadium and that stadium backs up to Rio, you have effectively given pedestrians a really nice, easy way to get from Rio to the Strip. Multiple outlets have covered many aspects of the Rio slow but steady reemergence. Their buffet is going to turn into a food court. Some of those places, I believe, like the burger place, I think is already open. Some of the rooms are starting to get not just light refreshes. I mean, they are going in there and they are kicking the 90s vibe out. They are redoing that. Vital Vegas and a few other people online had the lighting test. So they're trying to bring the exterior lighting back up to its former glory. I never got to go to Vegas when the Rio was the Rio, but it occupied, as a late in my teens and early in my 20s who fantasized about getting to go party in Vegas in my prime party years. I got to tell you, that's where I wanted to be. Well, are you getting any more excited about what's happening with Rio?
So if you've got a walkway from the Rio to the Strip, particularly if that walkway has a stadium in between, then I would get excited. One of the things which makes a Vegas trip for me, though, is I never spend the whole time in any one resort or any one property. I mean, I may spend the bulk of my time there, but I will always go to the hotel next door, or the hotel 2 properties over, or whatever, which means the last time I was in the Rio was probably 15 years ago now when I stopped in for the buffet. I'll stay at the Rio because you can't get from there to anywhere else without a cab ride. Like, particularly given the number of my trips, which happen during the summer when I'm not walking 2 miles of interstate. Like, that's not a thing.
Well, I suppose you could play Frogger and get over to the Palms through, just avoid the cars and a few dodgy locals.
Yeah, maybe. But so right now I'm not excited about the Rio renovations because it's not close enough to anything else. If the stadium moves there and if you've got a walkway all the way into Caesars, then, that becomes a much more live option.
Yeah, I agree. But I think just because of, it's weird to be nostalgic for some place I never went, but just because of the space the Rio occupied in my brain.
Sure.
Whether or not that stadium's there, when they've got that thing remodeled, I'm there. I'm going. Whether or not the walkway's there, and maybe I do the thing where I spend one night at the Rio and then I go spend 2 nights somewhere on the Strip or downtown, because you do that kind of thing. You swap hotels. Maybe I just pull a page out of your book. But, I don't know that I do 3 nights there. But yeah, I'm going to go check that out when they get it done.
I will be curious to hear what you have to say. So speaking of the Rio potentially connecting to Caesars, it sounds like Caesars has been doing some ugly, ugly stuff. Tell me what you're reading.
So Vegas Starfish broke the story on Twitter, and I assume Instagram because she's on Instagram, but I'm not, that multiple guests have reported that Caesars has canceled reservations in their better property, Caesars Palace and some of the suites there, and even the Cromwell. And then when customers complained about the cancellation, offered them to be booked at places like Flamingo that are cheaper properties, but at a now inflated rate. And that, back when I did the pool thing this summer for July 4th, they sort of tried to pull this on me. They canceled my pool reservation for the night of July 4th. And then for about a week, the price went up online and then it dropped down because nobody was booking it. And then I got an apology and I was offered to get it back for what I had originally agreed to, which I took because I wanted the experience. And if you didn't hear that podcast, that was my number one experience for last year. I've seen them flirt with this before. So I got to say, I buy this story and I think it's pretty awful.
So I would need to know more about Nevada law to answer the question I'm about to ask, but I am deeply curious about whether or not that's even legal, because as a general rule, okay, so at a bare minimum, most hotels, most other places in the U.S., if for whatever reason they can't honor a reservation, then the hotel commits to, getting you somewhere else. And as a general rule, that commitment involves a hotel of similar, quality.
Yeah.
But that's for something like, uncontrollable or marginal overbookings or something like that. And that's not what happened here. It sounds like they didn't like the deal they made, so they canceled it. And I would be curious to know what contract law has to say about what your reservation actually means, particularly if somebody had already put down a deposit or prepaid or had some skin in the game.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I suppose they could just say, hey, it was a computer glitch and then now it's backfilled. And I'm sure they have ways to dodge that. But yeah, it does stink. And I do hope, and I haven't followed up. So it is possible they've made that right in the meantime, but that is not a user-friendly feature for the Caesars booking experience. I do want to point out with this particular story that Jen, that is the first name of the artist known as Vegas Starfish, she's not without controversy. Now, Bill, do you follow her at all?
I do not.
So she posts a lot of really good content, and she has gotten a massive following. Apparently, she broke out big on Instagram, and when she also launched into Twitter Xville, her following came with her. She immediately caught hate by the Vegas trolls. And there are trolls out there that if you are popular on the Vegas scene, they will come at you. And that's how I'll know if we've made it.
I will be thrilled when we have trolls.
If some of these trolls come at us the way they go at Scott from Vital Vegas, or the way they go at Jen, or the way they go at some of the other people out there, if they ever come at us that way, we have finally made it. That we will finally be small fish in the pond. Because right now, I'm not even sure we're plankton, but we're plucky and we're trying.
Yeah, come at us.
But some of her critics are people I do respect. There was a dust up when some of her content about lip smacking and finger licking foodie tours, that's the same company. One half does guided tours, the other does self-guided tours. Some of her posts were extremely similar to the company's own post. So there were accusations of plagiarism. Then there were accusations that she was getting paid off without disclosing, which would be a violation of the law. But it turns out she's been friends with the owners forever. And I've been on one of those foodie tours. It was a phenomenal experience. The buying and everything. So everything she said about the tours to me rang true because I've been on it. Number two, I don't think there's anything unethical about two friends promoting one another. And I get it if you prove there was some payola and there was no disclosure, I could get that. But I'm not bothered by one friend promoting another's business, and nothing she said was untrue. The same thing here. She's getting accused because she's dating a poker pit boss apparently at one of the MGM properties. And so some people accused her of running with this story because it made MGM's competitors look bad.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah, that seems crazy to me because, look, anybody that lives in Vegas and is an influencer with connections, they're going to make friends with people in the industry.
Yeah,
and that might even include dating. If you and I moved out there, I'm not going to date anybody in Vegas because my wife gets really upset if I try to date people. But I will make friends with anybody in any resort I can. And of course, I'm going to use that to get information because why wouldn't you? So there.
Well, and then the smart resorts would use that to shovel out information, right?
Yeah. Which a lot of the influencers do exactly that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I did think it was interesting that there was almost as much controversy of her for covering it, and some people seemed madder at her for covering it than at Caesars for doing it. And that, look, again, some of her critics are people I follow and respect. She and, Karen from 360 Vegas didn't see eye to eye and all of that. I'm not going to get in between that, and I don't like it when, people I like argue with each other. I'm not going to quit following her. I don't see any reason for me. Like, she puts up good content, and nothing she posted was a lie. So I'm on her side.
As long as the story's accurate, that's very much a story that needs to be told, because that would absolutely drive my decision about things like where do I want to stay the next time I'm there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, granted, if she does ever take a big fat check from one of the companies to promote their stuff, I hope she would disclose that. But nobody has shown that. There's no smoking gun. People, allegations and whatever, but there's no evidence in my mind that she's done anything I wouldn't do in a similar situation. Maybe that makes me unethical too, but I don't have a beef.
Speaking of beef, let's talk about our favorite Texas institution, even if they have since been bought by Chicago, and Whataburger. At Las Vegas Locally says they're opening a strip location February 28th. Do you know where that's going to be exactly?
So, yeah, that's going to be basically in that Waldorf Astoria area, I believe. No, there's going to be two on the strip. I think it's that one that's opening first. And we talked about this a few podcasts ago. I seem to recall you thinking this doesn't move the needle for you.
No, but it's not going to involve me, change my decisions about where I plan to dine. It's not going to change my decisions about where I plan to stay. But, inevitably when it's late at night, and I'm an old man, so late at night's now like 9 or 10, but whatever. When it's late at night and I'm walking up and down the strip and I've got to have a snack, I will absolutely seek out the Whataburger because their burgers are good. Yeah, my general rule when I travel is I don't eat anything on the road that I can get at home. I don't understand people standing in line at Denny's in Vegas, right? You can get moons over Miami anywhere. That said, if I'm a little over Vegas and I can get a jalapeno cheddar sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich at 1 a.m. Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Well, there are any number of mornings you wake up in Vegas, and if you can get the jalapeno cheddar biscuits and you get some sausage gravy with all that fat and salt and porkiness to it, that will pull you through the first couple hours of your day. And weirdly, since COVID, that end of the strip doesn't have a lot of really late night dining. When we went on the guys trip over Labor Day, my flight got in late and our buddy Mike went with me. I was starving getting off the plane. It was only 11 o'clock on a holiday weekend. The only thing we could find open, I guess it was 11:30. The only thing we could find open for a quick bite. Some of the bars were still open, of course, and though I didn't want to go into a Loud Club and pay $45 for a burger and $15 for well vodka. I just wanted a bite. That's all I wanted.
Right. The only thing we could find open was Subway, of all things. It's really weird to me how few late night options there are on that end of the strip. Because some of that just hasn't come back from COVID. No, and that is super sad, right? I get it, right? The evolution of Vegas over the course of the last decade or so, and I get it that the $2.99 buffets are never coming back, and frankly, I'm not sure I want them to, but I think we've lost too much of what Vegas used to be, because, you should be able to get a snack late at night. I don't understand how the casino bosses aren't driving more of that. Because if it's 11 o'clock and I'm hungry and I've got to spend an hour and a half to find a burger,
Right, I may never come back to the table, or else I'm going to be in a better frame of mind when I do, and that's not in the casino's interest. So yeah, that really surprises me very much.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that right now downtown's doing better than the Strip is there are all kinds of greasy, regrettable, wonderful, bad life decision food options for you.
Yeah, like how many
24 hours a day.
How many pizza by the slice places are there just in downtown?
So off the top of my head, you've got the three not downtown altogether, but along the Fremont Street experience, you've got the three good ones, Pizza Rock, Pop-Up Pizza, Evil Pie, and I would put those in that order, although they're all good and I'll eat at any of them.
Yeah, I will go to whichever one of those I happen to be closest to.
And then you've got the one in the middle where there's the pizza shop, taco shop combo, and I've had a slice there. In any other town, it would be an elite slice. It's not bad. I don't think it's as good as the other three.
No, you get the tacos.
Yeah, if you stumble in there, get the taco salad pastor. Just skip the pizza.
Well, in downtown, you've also got like the White Castle.
Yeah.
Right? So whatever. You're correct. The Strip needs to do a better job of quick bites to eat, particularly late at night.
Yeah, I completely agree. So for that reason, Whataburger's good because they added in Chick-fil-A, but they're not even open on Sundays. And I'm sorry, Jesus Chicken, I love you. Maybe the Strip isn't for you. Maybe,
Well, maybe they're catering to the crazy preacher guy who always stands there in the median.
I just think it's really weird that Chick-fil-A is now open at Miracle Mile Planet Hollywood. Like, 20 feet from where the bronze stripper butts used to be? That is just the weirdest. Do you remember for years the bronze stripper butts were there and now Jesus Chicken is there? And that is just such a weird turn of events that could only happen in Vegas.
Vegas is the holodeck and it is whatever you want it to be. But one thing I don't want it to be, I don't want to lose some of the glorious features which have been in front of hotels for a long time. And I certainly don't want Vegas to be a place where, I don't know, you're walking down the Strip and all of a sudden you see just a giant pile of poop. But that's never going to happen, is it, John?
Well, it's happened a few times. There was a homeless guy with a bottle of vodka. But if you're talking about the Mirage Volcano, yeah, Scott from Vital Vegas said this months ago that this is what it was going to look like, and then he tweeted out pictures. I've got one on the run sheet for you.
I think that's going to be our cover art for this episode. Right? Is a giant poop emoji.
Or a Hershey's Kiss that's been in your grandma's purse since the Reagan years, and it's just melted and rotted away. Like I'm not clutching my pearls that the Mirage Volcano is going away. I'm going to miss it, but Vegas is about change. Tearing down the volcano is one thing. I just talked about Jesus Chicken and bronze stripper butts, but this is sacrilegious, Bill. This is a sacrilege. To just let the volcano die a respectful death. Don't do this to it.
Yeah, like what is the point? Okay, so theoretically this is supposed to be a mountain. What is the point of the mountain supposed to be?
So it is the Paramount Mountain, which is also hilarious because Paramount is now up for sale. But yeah, because CBS Paramount not doing so bueno in the money department, which this is a Vegas Vegas podcast. I've thought about starting a Star Trek podcast. I am a hardcore Star Trek fan, and I am deeply worried that the sale of this company is going to hurt my nerdy things. Yes, live long and prosper. Or die soon and suck it. Either way, whatever we're going with. I don't know what the Vulcans say when they're really mad, but I'm a fan of what Paramount produces. I am not a fan of this.
No, that's, you know what? Bless our hearts. I'm hoping that gets torn down soon. I'm actually intending to stay at the Mirage, pardon me, in March when I go. I'm going to spend a night in the Fontainebleau, then a couple nights in the Mirage to see kind of where it is. I'm hoping they've torn this thing down before I get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should hope so. Now, what I do wonder is taking this apart the day the volcano goes. Is this the last hurrah of the volcano?
Ooh, that'd be cool. Right? Like that would almost make this aesthetic mistake worth it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence about that. I think one last glorious eruption. And anyway, but yeah, that is what it is. I am looking forward to your update about what the Mirage is like during this transition, because apparently it's going to be at least a couple of years before it really is the Hard Rock.
Yeah, and the A's are competing for who can have the longest delay in realizing their original plans.
And I'm excited about the Hard Rock, but I will miss the Volcano. All right, so let's go on to some happier news. I know you're more a country guy than a rock and roll guy, or maybe you're like the Osmond family and you're a little bit country and a little bit rock and roll. But Vegas' own The Killers are going to be playing at Caesars. Vital Vegas said that it's going to be 8 shows in mid to late August, so I'm hoping they extend to Labor Day weekend, because if there's a show over Labor Day weekend, I am buying tickets. You can go or not. I'm going to that thing.
No, I'll go to that show.
Are you big on The Killers?
I enjoy their music.
Yeah.
So my wife listens to them a lot, thus I listen to them, and thus it gets into like my YouTube music feed quite a bit. But no, I enjoy the music. I will go to that show as long as, Caesars doesn't, I don't know, sell me a ticket, then revoke it and try to resell it to me at a higher price later on. Not that that's a thing they do.
No.
But no, that's absolutely a thing I would do.
By the way, they occasionally apparently do shows at Sam's Town, which they have a song called Sam's Town.
Huh.
I think that would make me go spend a night or two at Sam's Town if I could catch The Killers there.
No, that would be, I think, amazing. So one of the things, though, which concerns me in terms of places to stay, so you and I have both been MGM people for a long time, and we've complained before about how they've changed their reward structure, but they're starting to do some stuff which is absolutely nuts with their resort fees. And before we get into the specifics here, I get it. There's stuff you want to pay for, but y'all, if it's a fee that you can't avoid paying, just make it part of the room rate. And in some cases, the resort fees that MGM is going to charge, they've announced sometimes higher than what the actual room rates are, which makes no sense in the world. So what do we know, John, about what MGM has announced about their resort fees?
So again, these come from Scott over at Vital Vegas. I went back looking at news stories. I think he got it first. The RJ had it a couple days later. I think he had it out there first. Excalibur and Luxor, $37 a night. You can often get an Excalibur room for less than that. And let me be clear before I go through this whole list. I am not as mad about resort fees as some people. Like, I understand they're playing around with algorithms and they want to show low room rates, and the resort fee lets them do that, yada, yada, yada. And when I book a hotel, like I'm smart enough to, when it says it's this much a night plus fees and taxes, I click the info button and I look at those numbers and I make my decision that way. I think we're all adults here. I understand you might not be able to do that math once you get to Vegas.
No, but the fact that we are adults, I don't know, that's the wrong question. Like, you've got an advanced degree. I don't think you ought to have to use it to book a hotel room in Vegas.
But even so, normally, like, it's a mild annoyance. I don't get... There's a lot of people that get worked up about this. It's annoying, but it just... But when the resort fees start to be higher than the room rates, or when, like, look, if it cost MGM X amount of dollars to run the pool and the Wi-Fi, make it a set resort fee every night in all of your properties, make it uniform, and let it be what it is. But yeah, this is a little. This is obnoxious.
The $37 for Excalibur and Luxor is the low end of it, right? Like, going up from there, the New York, and the Park MGM and the Signature are $42. The Mandalay Bay and the Delano are $45, and I love the Delano. Like, the Delano is a phenomenal deal, but that's super annoying. But then the higher end properties, the Aria, the Vidara, the Bellagio, the MGM Grand, and I guess the Cosmo, they're going to charge $50 a night resort fees. And I get it. Those can be waived for, like, the high rollers and stuff like that. But for those of us who just book our hotel rooms and go, that is absolutely insane. Like, if I'm going on a 4-night trip, that is $200 in resort fees, which makes no sense, right? Just roll it all into the room rate if I got to pay it anyway. It's not an optional charge.
Yeah, and I get that. Like I said, I normally don't get too worked up about it, but yeah, it's obnoxious. It's,
Well, and I mean, it will keep going on until people quit booking. And I don't know that every travel decision about going to Vegas is always fully rationally informed. That's
true. Well, let's go from something expensive to something that I'm assuming is going to be very affordable. So our last story of the episode, the Las Vegas Sun reports that the Las Vegas Thrill, a professional women's volleyball team, court, not beach, before you get too excited, will play their first game at the Dollar Loan Center, which I think is out in Henderson, on February 15th. We talk a fair bit about sports in Vegas. What would it take for you to go to one of these games, and do you think the sports books will have a line on it?
I don't know. I mean, the sports books will have a line on it if it grows enough to have significant TV coverage. But really, the only time I ever watch volleyball is the Olympics, because that's the only time volleyball is ever on my TV. If I'm going to watch, so I watch my local teams because they're my local teams. Like, we've got a minor league baseball team here that I love to watch. Incidentally, the minor league affiliate of the A's. But so I'll do stuff like that. But other than that, if I'm going to go to Vegas or if I'm going on a travel destination, I want to watch teams that I would normally see on TV. And you can't catch volleyball on TV. So, I mean, if that's where the group is going, cool. I'm sure they'll sell me a beer once I get to the game. But no, I'm not going to plan a trip around that.
Yeah, and I think we could afford a beer at the Dollar Loan Center. I will say this. I kind of would like to see a women's professional sport league become a draw. And I get that the WNBA, like, they're fundamentally sound players. I've tried. I can't get into it. I would love to see softball or volleyball catch on. Like, I like those sports.
A softball game I would go and watch, and here's why I would watch a softball game. Softball pitchers, the distance between the pitcher and home plate is the same distance it is for 8-year-olds playing Little League. But here's the difference. In softball, they take 2 or 3 steps forward and are throwing at something close to 100 miles an hour, which means the reaction time those batters have to connect with the ball in fast-pitch softball is nothing. And then because you're playing on a Little League size field that doesn't even have grass, right? It has dirt on it to make stuff go faster. Whatever. I think those softball players are some particularly exceptional athletes. So that's one I would actually go watch, because that game is tough, man. Like, the folks who play fast-pitch softball, they scare me. Yeah,
NCAA women's softball, to me, is a better sport than NCAA men's baseball. Like, I don't go out of my way to watch it, but if I happen to be flipping through the channels and it's on and it's a college that interests me at all, I'm stopping to watch that game. It really, to me, volleyball and softball are the women's sports that I connect most with. I think there's something unique about it. It is, and I get men play volleyball, I get men play baseball, but like you said, there's something about fast pitch softball that it's a worthy sport that I think can stand outside of baseball shadow. Both are great sports. I think there's a place for both. And I think volleyball is an area where, even though men play it, that's a chance for women to shine. Well, I kind of hope this catches on.
And again, though, to my test from earlier, one of the reasons that I would go and watch a softball game in a way I probably wouldn't watch a volleyball game, or at least make a point of doing it, is I catch softball on my TV pretty regularly. As if I'm scrolling through, particularly through the sports channels in May or whenever, late spring, early summer, then it's a thing I'll see. So I will go watch that. But speaking of what we do on our next trips, John, I know we both have trips planned in March. Let's start by talking about yours. Who are you going with, and what sorts of stuff do you have planned?
So right now I'm going with 2 buddies of mine from the other end of the state. I grew up with one of these buddies here in Midland, and then he's got a buddy from Angelo State, and now they all live out in Grayson County, where I actually lived for a while in my previous career. We're going to go out there. Neither of these guys are big drinkers at this stage in their life. They've had some health issues because, we're old men now. So I think we're mostly going for the food. One of my buddies has been to Vegas twice, but he's never done the big buffet. So I think our showcase meal is going to be a buffet. There will be a steakhouse. We may or may not hook up with the guys you're going with, and we'll get to in a minute. And I know you've got some things to say about steakhouse. So we will catch a steakhouse. We're thinking about maybe catching a Vegas show. My wife is worried about what kind of show these guys might pick. We haven't picked anything yet.
So, and it horrifies me that your wife normally trusts me as the person with whom you can go to Vegas because somehow I'm the good moral influence.
Oh, yeah. My buddy Josh, she's terrified of me going to Vegas with Josh. And he's really mellowed with old age. But yeah, there was a time in my life that if I was going to go hang out with my buddy Josh, it was a hold your breath and let's hope we all make it home kind of night. Like this is a guy that in our youth was pretty hard charging, but really, honestly, will probably be better behaved than on our normal guys' trips. So I'm really looking forward to this because I don't get to see these guys very often. And we're right now we're planning to stay at the Link. I talked about that on a couple of episodes. I think we may change that between now and March, but I'm really looking forward to that. I know you've got a slightly different trip with a slightly different audience planned.
I do, but before we go back, I want to go back to something. So if this is going to be his one like big Vegas buffet ever, which buffet do you go to?
So I'm actually thinking about taking them to 2. Because we'll be at the Link, and I think I would like, and I just got to decide which for which. I think I'd like to catch a brunch at one and dinner at one, but I think absolutely for me, and I haven't done the Palms yet. You have,
yeah. The Palms is a great value
on the Strip. I think the only 3 that are worth it. I don't think MGM has a buffet that's worth the money to me.
They don't.
Right. Wicked Spoon, they do now because, Wicked Spoon to Cosmo, which I guess that is MGM now, and I hope they don't mess it up. But we won't be on that end of the Strip. So the Bucknall and the Wynn, I think with these guys, if I only had to pick one, just knowing these guys, I think they would like the whole vibe at the Bucknall. The Wynn may be a little too frou-frou for these particular guys. It's on the border of that for me. I mean, the Wynn buffet is a gorgeous space, but it's
and you've always had good experiences there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have never regretted my decisions before walking into the Wynn buffet. And again, we're never telling that story. But
you've got all your kidneys. It's fine.
But the Wynn is phenomenal. And I go back and forth about whether the Wynn or the Bucknall is the best. And I think it's not 1, 2, 3. It's 1A, 1B, 1C. They're all 3 excellent. I think Wicked Spoon is safely 1C in my mind. And I will happily eat there anytime, even if somebody talks my wife into hitting me in the junk.
She got a free buffet out of it. It was fine.
But I go back and forth about which one I like better, the Wynn or the Bucknall. They both just do some amazing things. But I think I gravitate toward just the history of it. If I'm going with people that have never buffeted in Vegas, every now and then when you're at the Bucknall, you get to talking to some staff person that's been there since the 70s. I think it's got to be that if it's just one.
Okay, no, I think that is absolutely a fair judgment. Like, I want to argue with you, but I've actually got the same thing, right? Like a weird tie between the Bacchanal and the Wynn with the Wicked Spoon as a fully acceptable alternative to those. So before we get into my trip, at some point, so I'm going with a different group of guys than you are, but at some point we're probably going to overlap for the steak meal. And one of the things I want to talk about is something I thought was weird because we've been wanting to try the Golden Steer for the longest time. We tried to book reservations there almost 2 months in advance, and there was literally no availability at any point during the month of March, right? Like, I thought that was
at
super
least not
weird.
for a party our size. And I didn't run for smaller parties, and they might. But I think that says something about the quality of the food. We haven't been there yet, neither of us. Between the two of us, we've been to a lot of Vegas steakhouses. And Vegas has phenomenal steakhouses. And like, even my least favorite Vegas steakhouse that I've tried so far would be the best steakhouse in a 5-hour drive, hands down, if it moved here.
Oh, goodness.
So,
yeah.
like, a bad steakhouse in Vegas is probably better than every steakhouse in a close radius to your house, listeners, and with a few exceptions of places you might be. By the way, and I live in Texas, we do beef well out here. Thank you very much. We have Perini Ranch 2 hours away in Buffalo Gap. Phenomenal food. I don't think it cracks the top 10 in Vegas, right?
I don't think it does, although I do enjoy the ambiance at places like Perini Ranch.
I do too. But
also sometimes I can get my aunt and uncle to buy me dinner at Perini Ranch, and anytime I get to visit with them and have them pay for dinner, you know what? That's just a better deal.
Yeah, I agree. But do they want to adopt? I'll go.
I will have you with me next time we go out there. So on our trip, I'm meeting a couple of buddies of mine, and we make fun of it at the start of the show about the baller on a budget versus leader in the luxury lounge sort of thing. But this is going to be my 50th birthday trip, not on the birthday, but near enough to it. So I'm going with a couple of buddies of mine, and we're probably going to spend 1 or 2 nights in the Fontainebleau. And listeners, we promise you we will do a whole episode just on what that trip is like. And I'll probably spend a night down at the Mirage to see what that is like. We're certainly going to eat a steakhouse meal, and if we can't get to the Golden Steer, I don't know that I don't go back to Carver Steak at Resorts World. Like, I did a video of that on the YouTube channel. It was really, really good. You haven't been to Carver Steak, have you?
That's one that's on my list. I definitely want to check that out. Both of the steakhouses at Fontainebleau, I mean, they look expensive, but they both look really good to me.
Yeah.
So I'd like to try those. Smith & Wollonsky.
Would you be willing to give... So if I do the trip to the Mirage again, would you be willing to give Heritage Steak a second try?
Yes.
All right, because it's been like 5 years
Well,
now.
and there's a new owner now.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, like Tom Colicchio is out, yeah.
Huh, I did not know.
Yeah, he's out.
All right, so if Tom Colicchio is out, then we almost have to do Heritage Steak for that.
Right, and I think the plan for the conversion to Hard Rock is they plan to keep that steakhouse as part of...
Well, because it's such a cool ambiance, and I do enjoy the wood-fired grill, and every meal I've had there has been exceptional.
Yeah, right? and quality control is an issue for the best of restaurants. My steak there should not have come out of the kitchen, but that every now and then, and I got mad and I stewed about it for years, but I didn't send it back. I didn't talk to the manager. I paid my bill. I still tipped nicely. It wasn't the waiter's fault, but
And I just had a thought, and we may close with this before we go to our outro. So my very first trip to Heritage Steak in the Mirage was with my buddy Ryan. Ryan, I hope you're listening to this. Ryan is probably going to be with me on that March trip. And Ryan, you need to redeem your performance at that place. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think your ban has probably expired at this point.
Yeah. And I will say too, I'm actively thinking of our schedules. By the way, for this trip, I was also thinking about Peter Luger if we want to go big, because that's now open at Caesars, and that is not going to be budget. It is definitely baller. It ain't going to be budget. But if we don't connect, I was thinking about hauling my crew. And by the way, I'm not a bad friend. I booked my trip with the guys I booked when Bill didn't think he was going.
I didn't think I was going because I've got an international trip planned. The short version, I've got a kid who's a high school senior. We've been spending a metric ton of money on college tours, including one to Ireland. And on a future episode, probably a couple of episodes from now, we're going to be talking about the Irish pubs in Vegas versus the Irish pubs in Ireland, because it turns out they are all over.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to your review. But yeah, I didn't ditch my friend. I didn't think he would be in Vegas for that particular thing. And now we're traveling with two very different sets of dudes. And I think catching a meal together is a good thing. I'm not sure the groups we're taking will mix well.
There probably wouldn't be a huge amount of overlap.
Yeah, no. I think you and I are going to have very different trips, but I hope we get everybody together for a meal. I think that'd be epic.
But we could never have as different a trip as my brother-in-law would have had when he went with us. God rest his soul.
And my buddy Josh absolutely loved hanging out with Mark. I mean, those two guys, it's like they'd known each other their whole life. By the way, one thing I forgot to mention, I think we're going to go catch Postcards from Earth at the Sphere while we're there. My buddy Josh is a film buff. So did a little independent movie directing in his youth. Didn't go very far, but it did give him an appreciation for the cinema. So I think we're going to go check out Postcards from Earth and get into the Sphere. And if we do that, I will definitely pass along my thoughts to our listeners there.
Please do.
And we'll probably talk about this 5 more times before we go, but that's enough of us going back and forth today. We thank you so much for listening. We'll be posting another episode here in a couple of weeks, but until then, Bill, where can they go online to get their fix of Dine Drink Travel?
You can find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Vegas and at Dine Drink Travel, and you can find us on Instagram, Twitter/X, Facebook, and I think Threads at Dine Drink Travel.
And I can be found on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it this week, as at Dine Drink John. And I would love to talk to you. And if we're big enough now to have trolls, come at me, bro. Come at me. To everybody else, thank you for listening. If you enjoy what you hear, share it with a Vegas loving friend. And safe and happy travels. I almost missed the line.